time aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. Back on U.S. soil after a torrid trip through Europe. Looking forward to catching up on that because it was a pretty awesome trip. We're also going to be talking about a new 3x points offer at Hyatt Vacation Club properties. We are going to talk about a no kids section on airplanes and other fun stuff that has come up once again in the travel world this week. Mr. Kerr, how the heck are you?
Man, I tell you what, I've been home this week, but it has been a busy week. It's Friday at time of recording, and last night, man, I think you saw on the gram that we had the inaugural Rival Dad Fantasy Football Combine to determine our fantasy football draft.
Oh, this was the first time. Oh, I wasn't sure because I hadn't heard of this before, and so I wasn't sure if maybe you just hadn't mentioned it in previous years because of a poor performance. But since you had a pretty poor performance this year,
The Nerf ball throw. I went to the Dollar Tree and got their finest footballs for $1.25. They weighed about 2 ounces, and you had a 10-yard throw to make into a net. And some people
so
figured
essentially
it
like
out.
Trying to throw a wiffle ball through a
and it was kind of windy, so I got tripped up and did not have a good performance. But anytime you get the Rival Dads together, it was a lot of fun. But also hosting the draft at the Kerr Manor on Saturday night, so. It's kind of a wacky week, man, but crazy busy. Dude, I've talked to 5 continents this week over the course of 48 hours, wheeling and dealing like we do in the day job. So while you've actually been to different continents, I've just been here on Zoom, wheeling and dealing.
And while you talked to 5 continents, I visited 5 countries in less than a day. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, who hurt you, man? This itinerary looked miserable. So I'm glad to see you're not like in a brace, or did you use your wife's upside down flipper table thing to like get sorted out? What's that called? But what was the infomercial? What's the table?
The Reformer, yes.
The Reformer.
Yeah.
Not for prisoners, just for Ed's back, the Reformer.
Gonna need more than that to reform Ed's back, that's for sure. So if you're just tuning in, you can find us on social media. If you watched last week, you saw Richard delete the Threads app live, so it no longer exists in his world. I guess it kind of exists in my world, but I haven't relogged in yet. He is at Kerpoints on all those social media platforms, and I am at Pizza in Motion. You can email the show, ed@pizzainmotion.com, and you can also text us or leave us a voicemail at 571-293-6659. Lastly, if you want to support the show, you can join our version of Patreon. We've got a pretty fun Slack community. I really love the group of people that we have there. We have ongoing daily discussions in a dozen different channels, members helping members there. We've got some pretty cool giveaways. We do semi-weekly happy hours, and we even have some meetups coming up, including Club 33 at Disneyland. So pretty cool stuff. All for just the price of a Starbucks cup of coffee a month, Mr. Kerr.
Breaking news, man. I told you guys right before we started recording, you and our buddy Howie, that I was going to check my United app to see if it looked any different because my challenge officially ended yesterday. Right now, I'm going to send you the screenshot here live on the recording of the podcast. I am United Premier Silver.
Yeah. Congratulations. Were you United Silver before?
No, I was nothing before.
Oh, this is going to be a good story.
Why am I silver? I obviously have the screenshot showing both of the things filled up and complete. I just sent it to you. So,
was silver even an option? Like, could you have achieved silver in this promotion?
No, I don't know, man. But I definitely met all the things for 1K.
Oh, I know that. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Yeah.
Oh well, man. Now I'm a little irritated. Now I just want to quit. I'm just going to quit recording and just call United and be like, "Hey, what's up? Why
there you go, derailing the show again."
I didn't derail it. The United app just derailed it for me. So
you didn't have to open the app. Nobody forced you, Mr. Kerr.
But it's timely to this recording, so we can discuss. Anyways, by the time you're listening to this, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have this figured out because my tummy hurts all of a sudden.
I can't figure out why that you did all that work and then they would just crash the ship up against the rocks.
I don't know. We're gonna find out real soon.
Yeah, we are going to find out real soon. Before we dig into the articles, let's talk a bit about my trip to the Faroe Islands. It was a blast, honestly, and even the part where I visited 5 countries in one day wasn't really all that bad. And I think at this point, I mean, I can be honest, I think at least amongst most of the folks I know, 5 countries in one day is either up there or a record for most of the nerds that we call friends. I don't have nobody else that was on the trip with me, Seth and Ben and Corey, none of them had hit that number. I don't think you've hit that number, right?
No, I've never done 5 countries in a day.
Yeah. So quick spin through that itinerary, and then we'll talk about the Faroes, because I think the Faroes need to be on everybody's radar. Daytime flight from Dulles to Heathrow, and I'll sum the trip up in saying it was one of the greatest flight attendants I've had in a long time. Her name was Helen. She was super awesome, and I took a nap prior to the meal service, and I'd picked the steak and eggs because it was the least worst of the three choices. And when I got it, it was pretty well cooked, and so I started to cut the outsides of the steak off to get to the insides. And she comes over and she's like, "Oh, you're cutting the outsides of the steak off." And I was traveling with two other friends of ours. She says, "Yeah, they tried that too. It's not going to work." It was just the worst piece of steak I've ever had. It was so horrible. It was
Well, I mean, typically when you microwave a steak, it's not going to be too good, which is
Yeah.
essentially what they do on a plane, right?
Right, and to be clear, it was literally the least worst of the three choices, because one of the other choices was like some French toast bread pudding thing with like 1 billion calories of sugar laid on top of it, and it was.
It sounds like your usual diet. What are you complaining about?
I'm trying not to jump. I'm trying to live to a ripe old age, so trying to be better. Anyway, we stayed overnight at the Hyatt Regency London Stratford, which I have not stayed at before. It's right near Olympic Park in London. I really liked it. I don't think you've stayed at this property though, right?
No, it's kind of which side of town is that on?
East side of town, close to London City. Like it's
No, I haven't
Olympic.
been over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like to be clear, like clearly, I mean, it's a part of town that many tourists aren't going to stay in. It sits right on top of a tube stop, so I wouldn't hesitate to use it for sure. But I really like the property. It looks like a fairly new build. It's in a mall there. Rooms are great, nice size, decent configuration, the whole bit. So definitely enjoyed the room. Next morning, we went to London City Airport. Got there just a couple of months after you. And I was curious, when you went through, had they already instituted the whole like keep your liquids in your bag thing?
Yes, I did not have to like pull everything out, but in Heathrow I did, but London City I did not.
Right. So that's supposed to be a feature of London City. And so I was flying Luxair that day. I printed out a boarding pass when I got there because I couldn't get a digital boarding pass from Luxair via their app. So I printed out a boarding pass from the kiosk. And if you remember, there are like gates that you have to get through to get into the security line. The boarding pass did not work at the gates, so then I had to go back down and stand in line and talk to an agent. So it was a great start to the morning. And then the whole like keep the liquids thing in your bag works absolutely perfectly, except for the part where you keep your liquids in your bag. Because I bought a bottle of water, because they said, "Oh, you can bring the water through security." So I was like, "All right, well, I'll just buy a bottle of water with the nasty breakfast sandwich that I bought at Pret a Manger." And they had to pull the bottles of water out of the bag and then bring them over to a different machine and have them swabbed and scanned and then put them back in my bag. And then they pulled my liquids out and then they pulled my electronics out. So it was very much a very typical London sort of stop where it's like, we're just going to set your bags aside and go through everything. So that was fun.
But then is it still widely construction zone?
No. So the gates are like 21 to 26. So like when you come into the duty free and you hang a right, there was construction there. Everything to the left, so gates 1 to 10, let's call it, all that was done. So there was a little bit of construction behind duty free. There's like one shop or restaurant or something that's still under construction right there.
Yeah.
So not bad from a construction standpoint. Was there a lot when you were there?
Yeah. Once you went through security, like the rest of the hallways and stuff were construction. And that's when it really hit me. Wow, they fit a lot of flights in here for such a small airport, and they fit a lot of people in here, and there's nowhere for anybody to go.
Yeah. I was surprised at how many. There are 18 gates, and there are like 6 or 7 hard stands. I think it's just so awesome to watch the operations as an airline nerd, because they don't use tugs to position the planes. These are smaller planes, regional jets, maybe some 319s. But the planes pull in, they taxi off the runway. There's one small taxiway in front of the gates, and then they nose into the terminal, and then the pilot just yanks the pedals all the way in one direction and does a 130-degree turn.
I thought that was really cool.
Points the nose out. It was so much fun watching that.
And it's so efficient. And then they board both the front and the rear doors of most of those Embraers, and everybody's on, you're out, and
boom, 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 gone.
Again, I thought that takeoff was super fun when they throw those engines up and you gone.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's a quick takeoff. So definitely would use London City Airport again. Highly recommend. And still really pissed that I missed. I think it was BA1, and that was
that's my biggest regret.
London City to JFK.
Every time my wife is always like, "What's the rush to do stuff?" I'm like, because it's not going to be there, especially with as much as the world changed in the last 3 years. Like some of the cool things I missed out on. I had that thing booked like 3 times, and every time I was like, I can't do it. I'll just do it again. And now it's gone, man. Now it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So from there, we were on to Luxembourg. Nice little airport. It looks like they're tripling the size of the airport, but nice little airport. Would not hesitate to fly again. I thought the Luxembourg air product was fine. We were on dash 400s, so 2-2 seating. They gave me a fairly reasonable offer to block the seat next to me on the first leg. It was like, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like €20. So I was perfectly happy to have a block middle seat for the equivalent of what's probably $26 or $27. We were only in Luxembourg for a short period of time. I was able to pick up a Lux airplane while we were there, which is awesome. Little plastic model Lux plane. And so that was country number 2. On from Luxembourg, we flew Lux Air to Paris, Charles de Gaulle, and we had what has to be the longest commute ever through the airport. Have you ever landed at 2G as in golf?
Way out in those regional gates at the Gulf. Oh, dude, that's brutal. It's a long haul from there to, if you got to go somewhere else, or if you got to go to one of the on-airport hotels, it's still like 45 minutes an hour.
So we were transferring to Terminal 1.
Yeah, that's a long haul.
After we got out of our gate, and after we walked down the hallway, and after we queued up for the bus,
yep,
the monitor there said your commute time from here to Terminal 1 was like 46 or 47 minutes. They were wrong. It was 58 minutes. So it took us from the time we got off the plane to the time that we got to Terminal 1 for our Lufthansa flight out. It was just over an hour.
Yeah.
With those times. Literally, mostly doing one of two things: walking or on a bus.
We did that landing from Austria late at night with the kids just to get to the Holiday Inn Express from there, lugging all of our crap with the very tired kids at night. That was a haul. So it's like,
man. you go 2G to 2F, then you go 2F to the train, then you go 3 stops or 4 stops on the train. I forget where it's 3 or 4, and then you go up to the thing to clear security, and then you go down through the tunnel, and then you're up, and then to your gate.
Yep.
So,
to that lovely Terminal 1 weird circle building, right?
Yeah. But they do have those really cool underground tunnels to get to the gates. I think those are kind of cool. Like,
and that's where the glass escalators are crisscrossing each other in the atrium. That's a weird building.
Very futuristic. Feels like a Mission Impossible movie or something like that. So we hung out in the center lounge because we were flying business class, and this is interesting. So we were able to kludge together Charles de Gaulle to Munich on SAS to Copenhagen in business class as well. And then the following morning, SAS Copenhagen to the Faroe Islands of Agar, all on one award for business class on all 3 segments. And it was like 20-something thousand United miles. So it's actually pretty reasonable, and like $130 in taxes. So thought that was really reasonable, all things considered. And probably from a culinary standpoint, this is where the trip started to improve, because even though they were a mediocre version of how good they can be, at the Senator's Lounge at Charles de Gaulle, Lufthansa was flying in pretzels, and God, I love those pretzels in the lounge, man. Love it.
You're a sucker for pretzels.
I am a sucker for pretty much anything that is dough related. So just to speed through the last bit, Munich, hung out in the lounge there, ate lots more pretzels, and then on to Copenhagen. We stayed at the Clarion Hotel that's right there outside of Copenhagen Airport, essentially attached. I booked it through the Advanced Hotel program, earned a boatload of points booking it through them. And I thought it was definitely the nicest Clarion I've ever stayed in. It was a pretty nice room.
Can't say my Clarion experience is vast and broad. And also haven't been to Copenhagen since high school.
Also hasn't been nice either. So this was definitely a nice experience. Following morning, we were off to the Faroes for what had to be the best deal of the trip. So we land in the Faroe Islands, tiny airport, as you would imagine. We hung out for about an hour waiting for Seth, Wandering Airman, to join us. And you can hear me on his podcast, Dots, Lines, and Destinations, this week, recapping the trip. But you would have loved this part, man, because not only did we pick up a new dot, EMKS, and a new line for about $55 a person, we got to hop on Atlantic Airways, which is the airline in the Faroe Islands. We got to hop on their helicopter and fly out to what I think is pronounced Mykonos, which is one of the smaller islands in the Faroes. So $55, and the captain apologizes when we get on. He says, the cloud cover today is kind of low, so I apologize for that. We'll need to fly low. And we're like,
you're like, sweet.
It's great. Yeah, we're 100 feet off the deck and like, this is awesome. And it was legitimately $55. So, I mean, you tell me, like, when's the last time you ever got on a helicopter for $50?
United States Marine Corps put me on a helicopter for free. I think they paid me to do that. But no, you're not going to get to do that anywhere else. You want to do a tourist helicopter or whatever, it's going to be 200 person minimum, right? So
yeah.
that's a good deal. Give us the overview of life in the Faroe Islands and what your impressions were.
Yes, I'm going to start at the end and go back to the beginning. When we were on the plane flight over to Stewart in New York, which is where Atlantic Airways is flying now, the CEO sat down with Seth and I for an interview, and one of the questions we asked her was, how come you haven't considered some sort of a business class seat on these longer flights? Block middle seat or some other sort of arrangement, bigger seats. And she said, we exist to support the Faroese, which is how they define themselves. And she said, we are a very small country. We all know each other. And we think it would be weird if we treated some of us differently than others. And our fellow citizens had to walk by us and see us being treated differently. So we just believe all in one cabin. And that sort of rang throughout the entire trip. These were incredibly friendly people, incredibly welcoming. We did this puffin tour, which you can see behind me. And the people that led us on the puffin tour on Mykonos, after they got done walking what was like a 5 or 6 mile tour and a fairly strenuous tour, they then went back down the hill. There's only like 20 houses on Mykonos. One of their houses is theirs. They are called, quote unquote, the locals. And they operated after they spent this, 3 hours on a tour with us. They then switched uniforms and cooked lunch for us. We paid for it, but it was, homemade fish soup and sausages and hot dogs and hot chocolate and whatever. But these were just all very simple people, and we're sitting either inside their house, or outside on a bench, eating lunch with them. And that's their life. At one point, Seth missed the bus back from the gym, and one of the people in the gym offered to give him a ride back to downtown. These were just incredibly friendly, simple folk, and that made it a lot of fun.
I'm sure the economics of having more seats doesn't help the airline CEO either, but point taken. And isn't it great that that's the way Americans feel? We are all in this together, man. We're
Huh?
I can't even say it with a straight face.
Well, we're going to get to the seats in just a minute, because maybe you won't be surprised. But so other things on Amiga. So the tour was $45 or $50. The helicopter tour was $50 or $55, and then there's a $10 ferry ride back from the island. So a very affordable day. We had a helicopter tour, a 3+ hour tour up the mountain to go look at puffins, which, as you can see behind me, we saw plenty of even at the end of the season, and then a ferry ride back, and it was all for about $100. It was a full 6-hour day, let's call it. So a lot of fun there. Downtown Tórshavn, or Tórshavn, I don't really know how to pronounce it. Maritime city, small restaurants, a little bit fairly affordable. I spent the same price for pizza for the 4 of us in Tórshavn as I spend for my family of 4 to eat pizza at our local place here in Virginia. So the pricing wasn't horrible. And I stayed at a really nice Hilton Garden Inn, which is a little bit outside of town and a little bit controversial because it's the only branded hotel. Great service. Very friendly people, clean rooms, and I got both nights on points, and reasonable points. I think like 55,000 points a night. So, not an expensive stay.
I've looked at that Hilton Garden Inn many times since I read about it opening. Well, daggone, man, sounds like an awesome trip and something I certainly would have loved. But the daughter's birthday party came first. But I definitely want to get there. My sister was there earlier this summer, and she's like, "You got to get to this place." And I was like, "I know, I'm working on it. Put it on the list."
Yeah, waterfalls everywhere. A couple of great restaurants. The only underwater traffic circle in the world, because they dug a bunch of tunnels, and so they connect essentially 3 different spots on the islands underground via a traffic circle, which was pretty badass. And then real quick on the flight home, A320neo, about 180 seats. They extended the runway a few years ago to, wait for it, 5,900 feet.
And that's a lot of people, gas, and suitcases to get up quick to go across the Atlantic.
Yeah, so I'll share pictures of you in our chat of the runway, but you can see it built up as it heads right to the edge of the water. So there's really not that much more extension you can do, and it's the end of the runway is a couple hundred feet above the rest of town. He did, pilot did have his foot on the brake a little bit as he revved the engines up before we took off, but because of that, they actually are limiting the number of passengers on the flight, and so they're going to limit to about 150. So if you take that flight, which isn't cheap, it cost us about $500 one way. But if you take it, you can almost guarantee you're going to have an empty middle seat because they're blocking 30 seats on the plane, 30, 35 seats on the plane.
That's a plus. I would take that because that pitch is a little tight, right? Like 29, 30-inch seat
31.
Pitch. 31?
31.
Okay, that's better than I thought.
Not great. Yeah. But for $12, I was able to select a seat ahead of time, and I picked the exit row was not an upcharge, and that was 36 inches of legroom, and that was plenty of space. It's a slightly upgraded version of the Recaro slimline seat, so it's actually not too uncomfortable. It's got a foldable headrest. And
Does the
you know,
armrest
like
go up in the extra row, or are they
they
locked?
do armrests go up. Yep.
All right, well, that's
And there's
clutch right there. You get the
and there's
armrest, you
yeah,
get 2 seats. Yeah, that's clutch.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's one level, we would think one notch higher on the padding than like the base seat. So like not great for a 6+ hour flight, but definitely had worse.
That sounds awesome, man. I'm gonna have to recreate that somehow. Was it
Let me know when you're
popular?
ready.
Big pomp and circumstance at the gate for the Faroese when you guys were
We had
taking off?
cupcakes. We had
Cupcakes?
cupcakes. Yeah.
Nice.
No, it wasn't a big pomp and circumstance. Again, simple people. They had cupcakes. There were a bunch of pictures. There were 69 total people on the flight, so it was nowhere near
Oh,
full.
wow.
Because the CEO came back. They didn't start selling it till May, and so they were just having trouble filling it as of right now. But she's emphatic it's going to come back next year. She came back and sat with us for an interview. Again, just a really simple, approachable woman, and seemed to have a really good head on her shoulders when she talked about what they're trying to do as an airline. She said, like, look, we're not going to be the next Reykjavik. We're not going to be a hub that connects people. The Faroe Islands aren't ready for, thousands of tourists, but yes, we're working with the local tourism boards to have more activities for people when they come. And I think they can handle, so let's just say it's 150 passengers a week. They can certainly handle that sort of increase. Can they handle another 1,000 people a week? Probably not right now. There aren't a lot of hotels.
Are there taxis, or is it just like bus you
There
gotta
are,
get on?
are taxis, no Ubers or Lyft. There are taxis. The bus is super cheap. So the airport's about 45 minutes from downtown.
Mhm.
And it was, don't quote me on this, but it was 90 Danish kroner, so $14-15
Yeah.
for a 45-minute bus ride. So again, just like very affordable pricing. And the bus local, like if you just want to take the bus locally downtown between the different areas, it's like 10 kroner, or like $1.25.
Does it go up to the hotel, to the Hilton Garden Inn? I
It
imagine a
does.
lot of I imagine a lot of people here will probably book that Hilton Garden Inn.
Yep. Yeah, it does go to
Sure.
so there's two different buses. The 300 bus from the airport stops just down the road from the Hilton Garden Inn, and then there's a local bus loop, two local bus loops, both of which that stop right behind the Hilton Garden Inn.
Gonna have to do the Beeline Copenhagen Faroe Islands trip. That would be an awesome trip to do.
All I can say is let me know when you're ready, because I would absolutely go back. A day was not long enough.
Yeah, we had a new guy join it Built about 3 months ago, and his honeymoon, he went to the Faroe Islands for a week, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta
Wow.
go." And I was like,
Yes.
"Man, God, everybody's going.
Yes.
It's the new Iceland. It's like the more affordable Iceland."
Is definitely a more affordable Iceland option, in terms of the hotel costs. And I thought the food was pretty reasonably priced. We even had like a really nice dinner that was still, well, a lot more like a lunch, but that was still probably like $50 a head all in, with drinks and multiple courses. And it was like langostinos and steak and risotto and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Got it.
All right, so let's let you be the judge, Mr. Curry. You've got 3 different ways we can go here. We can talk about the no smoking adult section on planes. We could talk about bonus points at Hyatt Vacation Club, or we can talk quickly about this American Airlines Advantage executive offer.
We got to stay in Europe with the new Dutch airline offering the adults only section on the airplane for an upcharge.
Yes, and it's on, and I didn't know this, but apparently this is it pronounced Corendon?
I don't know how it's pronounced. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I don't,
Yeah.
because anytime I think I know how a Dutch word's pronounced and they say it, I'm like, wow, I wasn't even close.
You're right, exactly. So they actually have an A350, which I thought was very surprising. I did not know that. But yes, the concept is that you have, in this adults only section, you have to be 16 years of age or older to sit in the section. And wait for it. How much do you think did you look at the pricing or no?
I haven't looked at the pricing. No.
Okay, how much do you think it costs for? And there are 2 different choices. How much does it cost for a seat in the adult zone in a standard seat, and how much for an extra legroom seat?
I'm going to imagine, because it looks like they're flying from Amsterdam to Curacao, the island down in the Caribbean.
Yes, it's a long flight.
It's a long flight.
Yeah.
So I'd say,
Mhm.
I mean, adults only zone a minimum of €50, I would say, for a standard seat.
€45 for a standard
€45.
seat.
Oh, look at that guess.
Yeah.
Extra legroom, I don't know, probably like €80 or €90.
€100.
€100. All right. I mean, €45, but I mean, I'm going to open up the article now. It does look like there's little bulkhead dividers, but it's just a curtain that divides the section. Looking at the pictures here. My question is, if somebody's on the first row of the family section or whatever they're calling the other one, and you're on the last row of the adults only section, does the baby's crying stop at the curtain magically?
Just like, as I said in our pre-chat text, just like the way the smoke didn't waft over the sign when I was the no smoking section signs when I was a kid. The smoke just stops right there. The baby crying can't hear it.
Yeah, you know what else can handle this is just a nice pair of noise canceling headphones. So, they look great.
You even get to use those again after you buy
Yeah,
them.
I imagine there's probably some adults or some groups of young adults going on an awesome trip to the Caribbean from Amsterdam. They're like, hey, yeah, we don't want to listen to a baby cry for 10 hours, so we're going to buy seats in the adults only zone. So from a marketing standpoint, might be pretty good for this airline. From a practical standpoint, like there's going to be families on the plane that you fly unless you get your own private jet. And if you're not traveling with a pair of noise canceling headphones these days, like I don't, I don't know really what you're thinking, or if you're the person that does not have noise canceling headphones and gets upset that a baby is crying, I just don't want to be your friend. I don't know what kind of person you are. Like, it's just the reality of flying on an airplane. Actually, my last flight home from New York, I was on the first row of economy and the second row of economy. There was like a 1.5-year-old just losing her mind, like the shrieking, bone chilling scream crying, and like even with the noise canceling headphones on. But I mean, you and I are both parents and we've dealt with this. Like all you do is feel bad for the mom was obviously trying to do everything she could. And like anybody that would ever give an annoyed look at that, like just get over yourself. Just quit. Like,
yeah, 100% agree with that. My 2 cents on this, like the only downside I see, I mean, the A350 is a big plane, so maybe this isn't an issue. But if I wanted to have seats together with someone I was traveling with, a divided plane like this in the coach cabin makes this more difficult because now if I want to be in this section, I need to pay this fee just to be in the section, and then I need to find seats together, and if not, like just as you start to cut space up more, you just run into making it harder for groups to sit together, whether you're a family or not. The fee I don't have much of an issue with. It's just like on full flights, now you're going to force somebody to pay this extra fee to sit next to someone that they want to sit next to if the rest of the cabin where the seats are not $50 a pop is full.
well, I mean, that's the name of the game for low cost carriers, right? They're always going to get that ancillary money out of you one way or the other. I just really think if you're in again, they have this picture on here at 1 mile at a time. If you're in that last row of the adult solely section, you're going to be able to hear the kids behind you crying.
No, false. Just false.
So don't do that. Oh, yeah. All right, what do we got next? We got a 100K offer.
Got the 100K offer. We got Hyatt Vacation Club. Let's do Hyatt Vacation Club next because I think that's pretty valuable. It's billed as 3x, but really what that translates to is 2 extra points, or sorry, 2 times the base points on Hyatt Vacation Club bookings. And Hyatt Vacation Club has definitely expanded. It's still not massive, but there continue to be properties added to it. They bought the Welk group of properties, the Welk Resorts, which was like 8 or 9 properties. And honestly, I mean, there are some pretty cool properties in the mix here. I think there was even one that you said that you weren't aware of was actually a Hyatt Vacation Club property.
Yeah, this is at Siesta Key, just south of Sarasota, or just north of Sarasota in Florida. Didn't know about that one. And then are there multiple in Key West now? Or am I just scrolling through? Where's this list? I mean, we all know about the one that's in Key West, the Hyatt Vacation Club at Beach House, Key West, but I thought I saw another one. I've been to 3 Hyatt Vacation Clubs, and they've all been awesome. So the one at Coconut Grove, I actually prefer to the Hyatt Regency Coconut Grove that everybody talks about.
Yep.
Again, for a traveling family, anytime you got more than just a standard motel room, which is what is in the towers of these Hyatt Regencies, is fantastic. And then actually really love the vibe over at the Vacation Club at Coconut Grove. Coconut Point, I keep saying Coconut Grove, but I think Coconut Point is the Hyatt Regency and the Hyatt Vacation Club is Coconut Grove. So we stayed there.
Now Coconut Cove, but I think you're right. I think it was Coconut Grove. But
okay.
Yeah.
They got the pool area over there is awesome. They got an amazing lazy river. They got a kids club over there. And then when we were there, we were like, hey, can we go use the full water park at the Hyatt Regency? And they're like, sure, and gave us wristbands. And I was like,
yeah, there's even a bus. Yeah, there's even a bus that goes back.
Yeah, I was like, why would you stay at this Hyatt Regency? Like, this vacation club is way more awesome. And then you go to the grocery store and like we cooked all our own meals and stuff. So I mean, I was there for my birthday in like 2018. I would love to go back again. And then been to the one in Maui. Go to the Hyatt Vacation Club Maui, not the Hyatt Regency Maui. They're right next door. You can use both facilities, but again, the vacation club there and the pool was way more chill and awesome. And then I've been to the Pinyon Point out in Arizona, and that was awesome. So if there's a chance here, and if you're a skier, it looks like tons of skiing recommendations. So, hey, great promo. 15 base points per dollar is essentially what it works out to, right? Instead of 5,
yeah, plus your elite, plus your whatever your elite bonus.
And then if you put it on your World Hyatt card, which if you're going to have a hotel co-brand card, I really think the World Hyatt card is the best. So pretty good deal here. I'm going to look at checking it out. What are the stay dates again?
Through November.
Through November.
Yeah.
Well worth taking advantage of.
Yeah, we'll put a link to it in the show notes. So it stays through November 21st, 2023. You do need to register, so make sure you register, even if you're not sure you're going to go, just so you don't forget. And I won't recash everything you said. There are multiple Key West properties. Yes, I think one of them used to be an SVG Vacation Club property. You've got the Coconut Grove stuff, which I wholeheartedly agree with you on. And then I have stayed at Pinion Point as well. Loved it. I've wanted to stay at there's a property in Truckee, which is right near Lake Tahoe. I've wanted to stay there to try and ski again in the Lake Tahoe area. So that's on our list. Incline Village is another one. And then there's a beautiful property down in Cabo that's been on our radar. So I think there's a bunch of different varieties here. I think you can get a really good value out of these. A lot of them, this was what used to be called the quote unquote Hyatt Residence Club. I think this relaunch with, the bonus points is just a great thing to take advantage of if you can somehow squeeze a vacation in between now and the end of November.
Yeah. There are 3 in Key West: Hyatt Vacation Club at Windward Point, the Hyatt Vacation Club at Sunset Harbor, and then the Hyatt Vacation Club Beach House Key West. So they got Key West covered, man. If you want to
They do, and I'm almost positive I stayed at that Windward Point property when it was, maybe it was a Hyatt when I stayed at it, but I'm almost positive I've stayed at that property, so it was either as a Hyatt Residence Club or it was back in the SPG days. So last thing, and so we don't run too long, I will ask you in short fashion, the American Airlines City Advantage Executive Card, which went through some, changes recently that, some folks might like, some folks might not, now has a 100,000 point sign-up bonus. Or I guess, 100,000 mile sign-up bonus. I keep getting the loyalty point thing stuck in my head. But it's 100,000 miles, not 100,000 loyalty points. Is that enough for you to want to get this card, Mr. Kerr?
No, what's the new annual fee? $595.
It's $595 is the annual fee. Yep, and then you got to pay the 3. If you want to add authorized users, it's $175 for up to 3 authorized users.
Yeah, not for me. It would take I get the Admirals Club access. It's just too much when there's other high annual fee cards that are going to do more for you. So if they bring back Atlanta LaGuardia and I got to get that Admirals Club access back, then maybe, but that's off in the future. But if you are an American Flyer, they got the bonus loyalty points on there now as well. What do you get, 20,000 just for signing up or something like that? I can see why you would pick it up, but for me at $600, it's a no.
Yeah, and I'm on the fence on it. If you're an American Flyer, like the only thing here that's a potential plus to me, especially when I think about the American Airlines, American Express Platinum card, is that if you're on this card, as a primary card member without having authorized user cards, you can bring your family into the club with you. So you don't have that spending requirement like you have on Amex Platinum. When I think about all that, there are scenarios under which I could see this card working out for folks with that annual fee, but you'd really have to be flying American as your primary carrier. This is not a card you'd hold in your wallet just because, in my opinion. It would be a card because you're somebody like Richard who's flying Atlanta LaGuardia, 15, 20 times a year, and then you're flying 3 or 4 times with your family. And that's the value of having the coverage, is that 3 or 4 family trips, you're able to use the clubs as well.
Yeah, that would make sense. But for me right now, it's a no. But hey, anytime you get those 6-figure welcome offer sign-up bonuses, then I definitely understand why you're picking it up.
Yeah, definitely something to think about. The sign-up bonus definitely makes you think about it. So we've reached the point in the show where take the big breath, and the summer travel is over and things are supposed to calm down a little bit. I know we've got all these trips dotted. We're supposed to do a 5K at Disney, and then you and I are supposed to eat steak with Howie, and then you asked me something about October, and there's still lots of stuff out there, but the crazy summer of travel is over and we are transitioning back into fall, Mr. Kerr.
Dude, my schedule was starting from this week through November, and then inevitably through the holidays. The rest of this year is just going to be a blur for me. I know it is. I've got my last month was chill. It was New York actually in July and August, a few camping trips, and then we really kind of chilled out, which has been nice. But man, I'm going to be all over the place for the next couple months. Back overseas again, Florida a few times, New York a lot of times. There's a lot going on, and not to hint too much at anything, but a lot of people here are going to benefit from all this in the very near future.
Oh, are you telling me I should be building up my built balance?
It's just always good if you've built a solid foundation of whatever your travel hacking strategy is.
Okay, but again, I just want to keep reemphasizing this. You need to space these things out. I need more time to spend money.
Oh, I didn't say anything about whatever you're hinting at. I just said people are going to benefit from it.
All right, well said. Well, I don't have any crazy international travel scheduled for a while. I think the next time I'll be out of the country is going back to Lisbon for a conference in November. But to your point, I have a bunch of travel scheduled. I'm just hopeful that I can get caught up because there's so much I want to write about on my blog about all the stuff that we've done, catch up on Instagram stories, all that stuff, because we saw so much this summer. I mean, the Faroe Islands was an incredible way to end it, but boy, like we got to see a ton of great stuff this summer, and I just don't want to forget it all. I want the kids to be able to look back on it years from now, even if readers are like, I already know all about that, don't need that stuff. I just want my kids to be able to look back and remember all these trips. So
send all of those photos to Walgreens and get that little photo book printed. That's what we do, and we got all the little family photo books underneath our
photos.
Yeah, printed photo books.
Printed photos. Interesting.
Yeah.
This is a phenomenon. I've never heard of this.
Well, the kids like before bedtime, just go underneath the TV and like pull out a little book, and they all flip through the pictures and they're like, "Oh, remember this?" and all that stuff. It's well worth the $15 that Walgreens charges for the photo book. Just do it, man.
I love it. You going anywhere the next week?
It's my last week home, man, and then working on a little last-minute Labor Day trip for the family, and then I'm in New York for 2 weeks, and then I'm other places for weeks, and then we're in Orlando twice, and then we're in Tampa for steak, and all kinds of great things.
Lots of stuff on the radar, man. Yeah, I don't have any travel scheduled for what hopefully is 2 straight weeks, and then I've got California, Vegas, California again, Lisbon, probably a couple more Vegases thrown in there, and then I have at least 2 Orlandos scheduled and a third that's trying to wedge its way into the schedule, and I don't know how many of those 3 I'm going to make. So that's the full end of the rest of my year with, I'm sure, other stuff, curveballs that we haven't seen. So lots more stuff for you and I to talk about, and we do need to drag our buddy Summer back on the show to catch up with her because she is getting a sneak peek of the Disney Treasure as we speak, Disney's newest cruise ship. So all that and a whole lot more until we upload again. We've got miles to go.